Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Kris. We are going to do, this is a new channel. It's new in terms that I listened to one of their episodes before, so I subscribed to the channel. This is how George Washington shaped the role of Commander-in-Chief, first President of the United States. And the reason why I'm going to pick this video right now is because today, December 14th, 2024, is the 225 years that Washington died today. Of quinsy, I believe is what it was called then. The little dangly thing in the back of your throat that got infected, swelled up, basically suffocated to death over a 2-day period. That, and the fact that they just, they were big on bleeding people back then. So he kept asking to be bled because he thought that would help, and all that does is, well, just makes your body weak, and now you're fighting an infection and loss of blood. So all around, not smart. So we're going to go ahead and get into this video. Before we get started, click that thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. That helps out tremendously. And you can also donate to the channel through the thanks button. I don't see one here for him. Oh well, but there's a thanks button somewhere on down here for me. You can donate, request a video, and you get your name sponsoring that video. All right, so let's get into the video. This will be 4 parts, about 19 and a half minutes.
Do you know how George Washington's leadership?
Sorry, I went to turn that off, but apparently it is part of the video.
Leadership during the American Revolution shaped the role of Commander-in-Chief and set a standard for democratic leadership that endures to this day? Welcome to BM Research, where we uncover the stories behind history's most pivotal moments and influential figures. In this journey, we'll explore how...
I'm sorry. Artificial intelligence is crazy. So, first thing I noticed is right in here should be William Lee. That's James Monroe. That was... I want to say Davy Crockett, but I know that's not right. But anyways, I just happened to glance over. I don't know who this would be. And there certainly wasn't a skeleton on there. So AI has yet to be perfected, apparently.
Pivotal moments and influential figures. In this journey, we'll explore how Washington transformed a ragtag militia into a disciplined force, navigated the complexities of war and politics, and laid the foundation for the principles of civilian oversight and ethical governance. Join us as we dive into the legacy of a leader who turned ideals into reality and reshaped a nation. Part 1. The Formative Years. George Washington's early life on a Virginia plantation laid the foundation for his leadership style. Born on February 22, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia, he was the eldest son of Augustine and Mary Ball Washington. His father, Augustine Washington, was a prosperous planter who passed away when George was only 11 years old. This tragic loss placed young George in a position of responsibility early in life. Managing the family estate alongside his mother exposed him to practical problem-solving and leadership. It was during these formative years that Washington developed a sense of duty and discipline that would later define his legacy. Growing up in a society that valued personal honor, integrity, and hard work, Washington embraced these ideals wholeheartedly. Washington's formal education was limited. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he did not attend college. Instead, he received a basic education focusing on subjects like arithmetic, geography, and surveying. This practical knowledge proved invaluable, particularly his mastery of surveying techniques. At the age of 16, Washington began working as a surveyor in Virginia's frontier regions.
There's land in Virginia that he surveyed, that they resurveyed, and he was completely accurate. And so there are other areas that he surveyed that they didn't even double check because it's spot on. It's pretty impressive. And I say that pretty impressive for a 16-year-old to be learning how to do that. And 200 years later, they were like, well, we're going to do it. Yeah, okay, George Washington did it, whatever. We're going to double check it. And they were like, nope, we don't need to double check his work anymore.
This experience immersed him in the challenges of the wilderness, fostering resilience and an appreciation for strategic thinking. Surveying not only sharpened his technical skills, but also gave him a first-hand understanding of colonial land disputes and territorial expansion. By 1749, Washington's competence as a surveyor earned him an appointment as the official surveyor of Culpeper County. This position provided financial stability, rare for a young man of his age, and introduced him to the complexities of land management and regional politics.
For anyone else, and you know about during the Revolutionary War, the Washington spy ring, was known as the Culper ring. And he named it that because when he was a surveyor, he started out in Culper County. I used to think it was Culpeper County, but that's because I'm wrong. But yeah, it was Culper County. So he named the spy ring after it, the Culper spy ring. Needed a name. How many people would know that that's where he started surveying and stuff like that? Not many.
During this period, Washington established relationships with influential families, most notably the Fairfaxes. The Fairfax family became mentors to Washington, exposing him to the world of social and political leadership. This mentorship also introduced him to military concepts and the responsibilities of command. In 1752, Washington faced another personal loss when his older half-brother Lawrence Washington died of tuberculosis. Lawrence had been a father figure to George, and his death profoundly impacted him. Washington inherited Mount Vernon, Lawrence's estate, setting him on the path to becoming a landowner and planter.
He didn't. So after he did inherit it, but after Lawrence died, the wife, Lawrence's wife and kid, I believe she moved out, and so he started leasing the property from her. And then she died, and I think the child died. And so from there, he inherited it.
Inheritance also brought new responsibilities, requiring Washington.
He also had a home that was given to him by his father that his mother moved into and was supposed to give it to him when he was 18, and she was pretty much like, nah, this is mine. She never actually formally gave him the property. She was just like, this is mine. His mother was quite a treat. During the Revolutionary War, he's fighting to try to not die and get a country. And she's writing him letters going, oh, forget this war. Come visit your mother. You never pay any attention to me. He wrote back, kind of busy. Don't quote me on that. That was me saying that.
To manage the estate efficiently. It was during this period that he began to develop his lifelong passion for agriculture and land improvement. His meticulous approach to managing Mount Vernon demonstrated his ability to plan strategically and think long-term. In the same year, Washington's military aspirations took shape. Lawrence's connections to the colonial militia provided George with an opportunity to serve as a district adjutant in the Virginia militia. This role involved training recruits and enforcing discipline, giving him his first taste of military command. Washington threw himself into the position, eager to prove his capabilities and establish a reputation as a leader. His commitment to discipline and his ability to inspire loyalty among his men became evident early on. These qualities would later define his role as commander-in-chief. Washington's first significant military experience came during the French and Indian War. In 1753, he was tasked with delivering a message to French forces in the Ohio Valley, warning them to withdraw from British-claimed territory. This mission was both perilous and politically sensitive, requiring courage, diplomacy, and careful navigation through hostile territory. Washington's successful completion of the mission brought him to the attention of colonial leaders and marked the beginning of his public career. His detailed journal of the expedition was published and widely read, further enhancing his reputation as a capable and resourceful leader. The following year, Washington was appointed Lieutenant Colonel of the Virginia Regiment. His leadership during the Battle of Fort Necessity in 1754 revealed both his potential and his inexperience. Although the battle ended in defeat, Washington gained valuable insights into military strategy, logistics, and the importance of preparation.
The Fort Necessity fight was pretty much one-sided. He had his men try to build a fort in this clearing, and it was like on a hill or something, and surrounded by woods. And the French and the natives came charging, and they were shooting from the woods. They came charging up, and Washington had his men form a line, and the other side was like, yeah, we're not doing that. They just hid behind trees and opened fire, killed a bunch of them. Then he realized, oh, this isn't going to be a fight this isn't the type of fighting that I want to do. So his men were hunkered down, and there wasn't a whole lot. There was just wide open with a little bit of fortage area and some trench works. And it started raining. All their powder got wet. They could have just been annihilated. And then finally, I think the French, he didn't realize how close he was to winning. Finally, had a peace treaty and had Washington sign it.
This experience,
which in and of itself was a complete disaster, but it's, not quite for this, I guess.
Deepened his understanding of the complexities of warfare and the need for disciplined troops. Despite the setback, Washington's bravery and determination earned him respect among his peers and superiors. Over the next several years, Washington continued to serve in the Virginia militia, participating in campaigns against French and Native American forces. His role in the British assault on Fort Duquesne in 1758 demonstrated his growing competence as a military leader. Washington's ability to maintain order under fire and his keen understanding of terrain and tactics were increasingly evident. By the end of the French and Indian War, he had developed a reputation for integrity, courage, and strategic thinking. These qualities, combined with his first-hand experience of British military practices, shaped his views on leadership and prepared him for future challenges. After resigning his commission in 1759, Washington returned to Mount Vernon to focus on his personal life and estate. He married Martha Dandridge Custis, a wealthy widow, further solidifying his social and economic standing. The marriage brought financial stability and allowed Washington to expand his landholdings. During this time, he immersed himself in agricultural innovation, experimenting with crop rotation and other techniques to improve productivity. Washington's meticulous record-keeping and hands-on approach to estate management reflected his disciplined and methodical nature. These skills, though rooted in farming, were transferable to his later military and political endeavors. As tensions between the colonies and Britain began to escalate in the 1760s, Washington grew increasingly involved in local and regional politics. His experiences as a landowner and planter gave him a deep understanding of the economic challenges facing Virginia's colonists. He became a vocal critic of British policies, particularly those that infringed on colonial autonomy and economic interests. Washington's leadership in opposing the Stamp Act and other measures solidified his reputation as a principled and articulate advocate for colonial rights. This period marked the beginning of his transformation from a regional leader to a national figure. By the early 1770s, Washington's combination of military experience, political acumen, and personal integrity made him a natural choice for leadership in the revolutionary movement. His ability to navigate complex social and political landscapes, combined with his deep commitment to the principles of liberty and self-governance, set him apart from his contemporaries. These qualities, honed during his formative years, would soon propel him into the spotlight as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. Part 2. The Call to Leadership. When George Washington was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army in 1775, it marked the culmination of years of preparation and leadership growth.
Why does it look like this guy has a really long thumb and a really long finger? Like he's doing this. Okay, we got to go to the next scene.
The second.
When did Washington have a gun hand? Okay. I'm not criticizing it because they're doing these, and I wish I was. But I find it funny that that's happening.
Continental Congress chose Washington due to his military experience, personal integrity, and reputation as a unifying figure. At the time, the colonies were divided by regional interests, and Washington, as a Virginian, was seen as someone who could bridge the gap between the southern, middle, and northern colonies. His selection also symbolized a commitment to unity, a quality desperately needed as the colonies faced the daunting task of challenging the British Empire. Washington accepted the appointment with characteristic humility, recognizing both the gravity of the responsibility and the challenges ahead. He declined a salary for his service, asking only that Congress reimburse his expenses, a gesture that underscored his dedication to the cause rather than personal gain. Washington's first major task as Commander-in-Chief was to assume control of a disparate and poorly organized army assembled outside Boston. The Siege of Boston, which began in April 1775, was the first major confrontation of the war. When Washington arrived in July, he was met with a force that lacked uniforms, adequate weaponry, and training. The challenges were immense, and Washington immediately set about instilling discipline, order, and structure within the ranks.
He did that because when he arrived, and he asked who the leader was, they were looking around like, we had no idea. And they didn't have any equipment. They were in a terrible setup camp. And then a couple of guys, he kept riding, and there was a bunch of guys, a group of men surrounding a couple guys fighting. And he was on a horse. He gets off the horse, parts the crowd, grabs both the guys by like their scruff of their neck or their clothing or something, and reportedly, allegedly, picked them both up and then just yelled at both of them and then put them down. And everyone was just kind of like, okay. Did it happen that way? I doubt it. Is it a great story? Yes. Washington was about 6'3", 225 pounds. He was considered very strong, very athletic for his day. It's possible, depending on the size of the guys. Sure, possible. It's a great story. I don't believe it, but I love retelling it.
He implemented rigorous drills and established a chain of command to bring cohesion to the troops. Despite limited resources and conflicting regional loyalties among the soldiers, Washington's leadership began to transform the Continental Army into a more unified and capable force. Washington also recognized that his role extended beyond military strategy. He needed to serve as a symbol of hope and resilience for the colonial cause. His demeanor and presence inspired confidence among his men and the civilian population alike.
Sorry. So that looks like it's trying to spell out Yorktown. And I'm just wondering why he would be telling the British, we're going to be here. And the British guy's going, no, 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 you got to go away. He's going, no, 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 we're going to be right here on the map. And you're right here. And I don't know why our flag is somehow upside down and wider than normal. Okay, back to the video.
Presence inspired confidence among his men and the civilian population alike. He understood that the revolution was as much about winning hearts and minds as it was about battlefield victories. To achieve this, Washington worked tirelessly to cultivate a reputation for fairness, humility, and dedication. His personal conduct set the standard for his officers and soldiers, reinforcing the idea that they were fighting not just for independence, but for a cause rooted in principles and justice. The Siege of Boston provided Washington with his first major test as a military leader. Although the Continental Army lacked artillery capable of driving the British out of the city, Washington's patience and strategic thinking came into play. He ordered the fortification of Dorchester Heights.
That flag has way too many stars on it. I know it's AI generating all the images, but now I'm just enjoying picking all these things out.
In March 1776, using cannons transported from Fort Ticonderoga. This bold maneuver forced the British to evacuate Boston without a major battle. The success of this operation not only boosted morale but also demonstrated Washington's ability to achieve results through careful planning and decisive action. It was a critical early victory for the Revolution, solidifying Washington's position as a capable and resourceful leader. However, Washington's leadership was not without challenges. The Continental Congress, while supportive of the revolutionary cause, often struggled to provide the resources Washington needed to maintain his army. The lack of a centralized government made it difficult to coordinate efforts across the colonies. Washington frequently faced shortages of food, clothing, and ammunition, as well as issues of desertion and low morale among his troops. These challenges tested his patience and resilience. Despite these obstacles, Washington remained steadfast, often writing impassioned letters to Congress and state governments, urging them to support the army and reminding them of the stakes involved in the struggle for independence. One of Washington's greatest strengths as a leader was his ability to delegate and rely on the expertise of others. He surrounded himself with capable officers, including Nathanael Greene, Henry Knox, and Alexander Hamilton. These individuals would play crucial roles in the Revolutionary War effort, and Washington's trust in their abilities exemplified his commitment to teamwork and collaboration. His willingness to listen to advice and adapt his strategies based on input from his officers contributed to the overall effectiveness of the Continental Army. This collaborative approach set a precedent for future military leadership in the United States. The early years of Washington's command also highlighted his capacity to learn from mistakes. The New York Campaign of 1776, in which the Continental Army suffered a series of defeats, was a sobering experience for Washington. The loss of New York City was a major blow to the revolutionary cause, but Washington used the experience to refine his strategies and adopt a more flexible approach to warfare. Recognizing the limitations of his forces, he shifted his focus to smaller, more strategic engagements that played to the strengths of his army. This adaptability would prove crucial in the years to come, as the revolution evolved into a war of attrition rather than direct confrontation. Washington's ability to inspire loyalty and perseverance among his troops was perhaps his greatest asset. Despite the hardships faced by the Continental Army, including brutal winters, disease, and inadequate supplies, Washington's men continued to follow him with unwavering determination. His personal presence on the battlefield and his willingness to share in the hardships of his soldiers earned him their respect and admiration. This bond between Washington and his troops was a key factor in the Army's ability to endure the many trials of the Revolution. Another critical aspect of Washington's leadership was his understanding of the importance of alliances. From the outset, he recognized that the colonies could not achieve independence without external support. His early efforts to coordinate with the French, Spanish, and Dutch were instrumental in securing vital supplies and, eventually, military assistance. Washington's diplomacy and ability to build relationships with foreign powers laid the groundwork for the critical French alliance that would later tip the balance of the war in favor of the colonies. His vision extended beyond the battlefield, encompassing the broader strategic and political dimensions of the Revolution. Washington's acceptance of the role of commander-in-chief was not just a moment of personal significance, but a pivotal event in American history. His leadership during the early stages of the Revolution set the tone for the war and established the principles that would guide the Continental Army throughout the conflict. Through his humility, resilience, and unwavering commitment to the cause, Washington became a symbol of hope and determination for the colonies. His ability to overcome immense challenges and inspire those around him demonstrated the qualities that would ultimately make him a revered figure in American history. Part 3. Organizing the Continental Army. When George Washington assumed command of the Continental Army, he inherited a force that was more a collection of militias than a cohesive military unit. Soldiers from different colonies arrived with varying levels of training, equipment, and discipline. Regional rivalries and differing cultural norms among the troops created significant challenges for unity and coordination. Washington quickly realized that building an effective army would require instilling a sense of common purpose and discipline while addressing the practical challenges of supply and organization. The process of organizing the Continental Army would be one of Washington's most significant contributions to the revolutionary cause. Washington's first priority was to impose discipline within the ranks. Many of the soldiers were accustomed to the relatively informal structure of colonial militias, where officers were often elected and authority was limited. Washington introduced a more formal chain of command, emphasizing accountability and professionalism. To enforce discipline, he instituted strict military codes, including penalties for insubordination, desertion, and drunkenness. These measures, though unpopular at times, were essential for transforming the army into a disciplined force capable of facing the well-trained British military. Washington understood that without discipline, the army would be unable to achieve its objectives. Equally important was the need to address the practical challenges of supply and logistics. The Continental Army faced chronic shortages of food, clothing, and ammunition, which often left soldiers ill-equipped to fight. Washington worked tirelessly to improve the supply chain, lobbying Congress and the states for greater support. He also introduced measures to reduce waste and improve efficiency, such as standardized rationing and more organized distribution of supplies. Despite these efforts, supply shortages remained a persistent challenge, forcing Washington to make difficult decisions about where and how to deploy his forces. His ability to navigate these logistical obstacles while maintaining the morale of his troops was a testament to his leadership. One of Washington's most significant innovations was his approach to training and professionalization. Recognizing the importance of skilled officers, he established a system for selecting and promoting leaders based on merit rather than social status or political connections. He also brought in experienced military advisors, such as Baron Friedrich von Steuben, to train the army in European-style drills and tactics. Von Steuben's training methods, introduced during the winter at Valley Forge, were transformative, turning the Continental Army into a more cohesive and disciplined force. This focus on professional development not only improved the Army's performance but also laid the foundation for a more standardized military culture in the United States. Another key aspect of organizing the Army was fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose. Washington understood that the success of the Revolution depended on overcoming the regional and cultural divisions among the colonies.
Went a little bit longer, but we're going to go ahead and pause it there. Like I say, today is the 225th anniversary of the death of George Washington, so that's why I'm doing this video. We will finish it up. It'll be a 4-parter. But that's part 1. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, have a good day, have a good night.